Good morning, all our friends on Going On Daily. So grateful to be here again today. And today I get to be with Chuck. We've never done
Yeah.
a show together yet, so this is going to be great. And we've got some great stories for you about flights and experiences. And so it's going to be a storytelling episode, it feels a lot like, right? And then
Indeed.
I'm going to share a little bit about navigating the turbulence of the holiday seasons as well, giving a little bit of emotional mental support there. And Chuck, how about we lead in with you and just let's get the ball rolling. You used to work at airports, right? Or you still do? Or
Oh, yeah, back in the day. So this is aviation week, and I'm kind of fired up that I get to be on twice this week because I
cool.
have some pretty good aviation stories. Well, Monday I did one where I actually was flying a plane, and many years before that, it was in, I guess, like the early 2000s. I was a young man at that point, and I was working for some different companies doing some cool stuff, but I had a layoff at one point, and a friend of my dad
Mm-hmm.
reached out and said, "Hey, what are you doing for the next couple months?" She ran a little tiny restaurant
Mm-hmm.
that was in the Don Scott Airport, which is the Ohio State University's little airport. They have planes like the
Okay.
one on our thing here. It's not like, giant commercial jets or anything. It was all these little kinds of
Cessnas, like
planes.
little Cessnas, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Yeah.
And here's what's cool about these little airports is all the famous people, they fly into the smaller airports. They don't fly into the major metropolis, the
Right. The
Port
big
Columbus
ones.
River. They
Yes.
fly into the Don Scott. So we
Yes.
would get to see some pretty cool people throughout the course of my time there. And not only that, we get to meet some of the people that lived in that area that would go to the airport. They would meet up and like grab breakfast together, and then they'd go get in their planes and they'd go fly around all day.
Oh,
And it was
fun.
kind of a
Wow.
cool dynamic. It's just a bunch of older guys, and they just, hang out
Cool.
and talk shop and whatnot. But there was one thing that I'll never forget. And this is hopefully it's only a one-time occurrence. I've never read anything about it other than this one time, but the band, the Rolling Stones, were having a concert at the Ohio Stadium, the Horseshoe, right there. Shout out to the Horseshoe, back in like 2000 or '01, whenever this was. And they were coming into that airport as well. Not them personally. I didn't get to see the Rolling Stones, but like all of their equipment. And because it was an outdoor stadium show, they had a dirigible, a blimp.
Oh, dirigible.
And
Yeah.
so here's what happened to this dirigible. This was one of a kind. The pilot was getting ready to take the dirigible up into the air and fly it over to the Ohio Stadium, which was probably about, I don't know, 3 or 4 miles away from where the airport was located.
Okay.
Okay, this is sounding like a pretty sound strategy right now. We got to get over
Okay.
there. We got a show. One thing they didn't take into account, actually, too, was the weather. A
Uh-huh.
little bit windy out. I don't know if you've ever been in a dirigible and been up there when it's windy, but kind
Well,
of like a balloon or a kite, it's not the most comforting thing that you've ever been a part of.
yeah.
But they also forgot that there were overhead power lines. And you'll never guess. Well, you
Oh,
probably will guess. I believe you've probably already guessed what's going to happen next in the story. The dirigible for the Rolling Stones goes up. I laugh because nobody was hurt. Nobody was harmed in the making of this
thank
story.
God. Eh?
It
Oh,
goes up and it's like, and it just catches in there. And the guy is stuck in there because obviously, what are you going to do?
right.
And it was a whole process where they had to shut all the power. They had to get people out there with the buckets, and they got the Rolling Stones pilot out, but the thing was done. It just was, and they didn't end up having a dirigible for that show, which is kind of ironic because I think that was the main attraction outside of the actual band was, hey, we're going to have a cool Rolling Stones. It had those giant lips on it or whatever that Rolling
Oh,
Stones logo is. And
right, right,
just
right.
a total disaster.
Oh my
Nobody really heard about it because it was a small airport, but that's just one thing. And I don't want to take too much time up because I have a tendency to do that with my stories, but I do have another quick story that I'd like to share about times at the airport.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I'm working in this airport, I only worked there for a few months. It was a great deal because this was an older lady and her daughter. They were getting ready to retire. She was probably, oh goodness, I'd say 70, 75 years old at that point. So she's long gone, Nancy. She was an angel. And she would have me come in, and I was literally working there like 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then she asked if I could work on Saturday mornings for a couple hours, and she was paying me cash. And I say this now,
Okay, that's nice.
I think the statute of limitations, and I probably did claim that on my taxes. I'm sure I did. But she was paying me more than I was making at the other job that I had. So I quit my job, which I had been trained extensively for and like gone to Florida and done massive projects for this large company. I just quit to go work at a little diner. And it was the coolest experience. And all right. I'm not gonna. We have a format here, Danny. I'm just gonna say. I appreciate you.
No, go on, Chuck. I'm all ears.
To say. Yeah, we're gonna do our deal.
We have a flow. It just goes
this.
where it goes. You know, there's no rules or laws here.
Exactly, we got it. So we were, at the airport. There were a lot of different personalities that would come in. Very unique. The people that have their own airplanes and go out flying. And I got to know a lot of these people individually, which was pretty amazing. So this is 20 plus years later. I had a guy on Facebook reach out to me a couple years ago, and he said, "Are you the same Chuck that worked at the Barnstormer restaurant at the Don Scott Field in Columbus, Ohio, like 25 years ago?" And this was crazy because it's like, yeah, but like, who's this? It was a guy named Ken. And I didn't remember anything about this, Luannah, but this guy, Ken, was a regular that came in. And apparently I invented some sort of a sandwich that I named after him. And I have no recollection of it at all. But he's like, I still eat the Ken sandwich to this day. And I thought it was funny. And I was just sitting here eating it at lunch. And I thought about you. And I remembered your name was Chuck Allen. So I just reached out, and I thought that was cool. But you got to meet a lot of really cool people. You got to see a lot of neat things, like Tiger Woods and his team would fly in, cool. And you could see, you had to stay away from them, but it was actually really cool. And I think that the smaller airports with a character like that are so much better than going to the major ones. Maybe DFW. I love Dallas Airport just because it's awesome. You could live there basically, but the small ones are so cool. They're so quaint. And I always tell people, if you ever get a chance to go visit one of those, or even just go up in a plane, like one of these small ones, do it because it's so memorable and you'll have a great time. And from the tiny airports, my friend. Nice there you go.
They are kind of fun. We have a tiny airport on Vancouver Island in Victoria, like super, super tiny. And I did my first flight there. I had originally wanted to, explore being a pilot. And so I did a flight. I flew over Victoria, and it was really a cool experience being in the Cessna. And just seeing, it's like being there flying, right? And I even landed it too. And the guy said I was a natural, but then shortly thereafter, I had an accident, had a concussion. So I had to let that dream go.
I know. Isn't that so much cool, though? It's one of those memories you'll always have. Cool. And I did it on our Monday show. I actually had a video, and it was it was me landing the plane. So you and I are probably the only two accomplished pilots on the Going On Daily roster.
All right.
Here we go. Perfect for Aviation Week, right?
Aviation
if you guys have any aviation questions, we're the experts.
Yeah. And I think everybody should just go for a trial flight. You get a trial flight and just have the experience because it's really incredible. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed every bit of it, and I wish I would have done it when I worked at the airport. I turned that opportunity down 25 years earlier, so I was very grateful that I got a chance to go back around and do that. But I agree with you. If you get a chance, take it.
Yeah. And my husband, he was a airport plane mechanic on NASCAR lines in Peru.
Really?
He's a mechanic there. Yeah, so he's got a lot of great stories too. And it was funny, before we met, he just like a month before also went for his first flight to do that. So that was something that was
have something in common. It was meant to be.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was amazing. Yeah. So I love the little Cessnas. So we might explore that later down the road again too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a plan to buy a plane one day. I don't know if I'll ever do it. I also have a plan to own a NASCAR team. So we'll see. Okay. I don't think either of those are really probably ever going to honestly happen, but
you never know.
You got to have that big audacious goal that nobody looks at you and says, yeah, you can definitely get that done. I think a plane and a NASCAR team are
we live in the quantum field of possibilities, my friend.
You are right.
When something's aligned, it's totally possible when we direct ourselves to it. I wouldn't shelve that one yet.
Well, stay tuned because I have some plans.
Awesome. Well, everybody, this is season 2, episode 262, and so happy to be here. This is my second time leading, and this is a whole new experience for me, so I'm grateful to be here with everybody. And just wanted to remind everyone where you can catch us on social media. I'm going to read through the list so I don't forget a thing. So you can watch us live on YouTube, Rumble, Kick, at Rhode Island Broadcasting, Twitch at RIBroadcasting, Twitter or X, I still look at it as Twitter too, at Broadcasting RI. And you can listen to us on Red Circle, Spotify, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. I'm still wanting to explore iHeartRadio. I've never looked into it.
Oh, I love it. I use it every day.
Okay, yep. I want to check that out. And RI Broadcasting, and you can follow our social medias on Blue Sky, MeWe. It's also a fun one, MeWe. I haven't explored that one. I love that name.
I need to check that one out. Yes.
Yeah, this sounds pretty cool. Fun name. Parlor, Gab, LinkedIn, Space Hey. That's also a fun name. And
you gotta say it like this though, Luannah. You gotta be like Space Hey.
Oh, I like that.
I realized that that's the way to do it. Becky says it like that, and I was like, you know what? I think that's how they intended for it to be said.
I like it. It makes me think of Will Smith in Men in Black.
There you go.
When he called Kay. Just that jumped in my head like that. It's one of my favorite movie series.
I love it.
Yeah. And so thank you everybody for being here. And I'll put in that extra request to like us on Facebook so that we can start streaming there again after we lost our 10,000 viewers through the universal glitch of whatever. And we would love to be able to live broadcast there too. So please go there and like us, like our page so we can do that again. And then our next story, Chuck, this is you again. Can you hack it? Plane hacks. This is going to be
No, that's not me.
That's not you?
We may have a technical difficulty. I think Plane Hacks was on Monday's show.
Oh,
if I'm not mistaken.
Uh-oh, did I look at the wrong one? Oh, I think you're right. Oh, that's too hilarious.
No worries, my friend. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
We're actually going to talk about the scariest flight ever.
Right. Oh my goodness. Where did I go? Holy cow. I scrolled way too far up on the menu. That's hilarious.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Scariest flight ever. So that's going to be me. So when I was 18, I started my pilgrimage around the world. And I lived in Germany, and I did a practicum in a hotel for high-end service, the highest French service you could learn to be hotelier and restaurateur. Then I got a job in Switzerland in the Italian part. And from there, I had an opportunity to just go traveling to Thailand. It was like an idea that came in through a friend. And so decided to go. And I was going to meet my friend there at the airport. So the flight from Switzerland was great, but you had lots of connections. But then we landed in Romania, and I had to wait for 9 hours in a glass airport.
Oh.
With like minus 15 degrees. I mean, it was, or even more, it was freezing. And it was a 9-hour wait. And while I was sitting there, this is my first time. And, I was there and I was the only white person there amongst a whole bunch of Thai people. And I was like sitting in a corner thinking, oh my God, they might hate me, all the horrible things that my ancestors have done. And I was really meeting that reality because it's the first time. And then I met these two beautiful Thai girls, Mai and Tai. And they came over and we started chatting. And then all of a sudden it was just like, we're just like sisters right away. And then some other travelers came and a few of them had bottles of red wine. And so we were sitting in a circle, keeping warm, drinking red wine together. And it was such a great, fun experience. And then it came time to get on the plane. And we got on the plane. One of the guys, his name was Sasha. He was so sloshed. He was just like, he was out.
That's what you do at airports when you're waiting.
It was hilarious.
Guilty.
And so he was sitting behind us, and he actually passed out on the plane with his feet in the lane, and the stewardess kept driving the cart over the whole flight. That was one little layer. It was hilarious. But when we got on the plane, the seats were actually moving. They were not solid. And then the little tables that you pull out, they weren't even attached to the chair. They were just shoved in the pocket.
You see little strands of duct tape and yarn tying things together, and it's like, Air Romania
doesn't exist anymore, and I guess that's why Tarom Air they were. And so it was like I think it was like an 18-hour flight on that plane.
Nothing worse than being on an 18-hour flight, wondering every second of the 18 hours,
Oh my
when's the
God.
engine going to stop? You know, when's the wing going to fall off?
And then we hit
Ugh.
incredible turbulence.
Of course.
Like the whole thing. So then the shares are like really, you know, moving, and we're like, oh my God.
That's why they loosen the bolts for you. They wanted to make it a comfortable experience. I love it.
And so I was sitting beside these two lovely ladies, right? And they pulled out their praying beads and, you know, and their Buddha, and they were just praying and praying and praying. And I'm praying in my way. And there was a moment I'd already started learning how to work with the pendulum and dowsing and things like that. And so I went to the bathroom, like, are we going to land?
That's the goal. We hope.
Are we going to land safely? And so we ultimately did. But oh my God, that was a ride I will never, ever, ever forget. And then we were late. So my friend was supposed to pick me up at the airport. We were like 2 or 3 hours late. And because, you know, I'm a foreigner, I'm not going to get through customs fast or through the border fast. So I had to give my friends a picture of my friend to find him before he left.
Oh, wow.
So, because otherwise I'd be 19 years old in Thailand and I'd have no reference because he's the one who had the reference and knew where we were going. Right? I had no idea. And so later on, when I saw her and then I saw him, he said, this little Thai lady just came up to me, looked at the cart and says, "Are you this person?" And he said, "Yeah." He says, "Don't go away. She's coming." So that was quite like the whole adventure, from the airport to the plane ride to getting there and like almost being just alone. And I had no way we didn't have internet then.
No.
Right? We didn't.
Yeah, it was especially on those planes. Those planes don't have complimentary Wi-Fi. That hasn't hit that.
No, but we didn't even have. The only thing in Thailand at that time was a Wi-Fi cafe where you paid like exorbitant money, but neither of us were in technology, so there was no way I could reach him. So that was my beginning of my world travels all over. I've been everywhere. I would work hard in the hotel industry, and then I traveled and work hard and then travel. And so that's one of my most memorable flight experiences. It was crazy. Yeah.
Now, I love this scariest flight ever. I've been on a couple that have scared me pretty bad, but I do have a couple follow-up questions for you here about this particular flight. Yeah. 18 hours. You're white knuckled. You're thinking, oh my gosh, you know, we're gonna die any second now. This is it. But when you're on an 18-hour flight, I have to know, what kind of food did they serve on this plane? Was it like, did they serve you anything at all? Was it like, you know, here's snacks, some saltines and some water, or just snacks? You're just going to sit here for 18 hours with
they might have, but I think the fear overrode my memory of the food. I don't know. They might have given us a few snacks, but it was really terrifying. Yeah. Okay, what's your other question?
Well, it was that. And then the second one is the scariest one that I ever did was just a small short flight, but it was one that had like actual twin propellers on it, but it was a commercial airline. So I have to ask, you know, the plane that you were on for this, we've already kind of decided.
Yeah, it
was little sketchy, you know, you can kind of shake the seats and move around a little bit.
Yeah.
What kind of propulsion did this thing have? Was it propellers? Was it like a jet plane?
I remember it was propellers. Yeah.
Oh man.
Because we had to walk onto the ground to walk into the plane. So it wasn't walking through one of the tunnels. Yeah. I remember it had the propellers. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you're here today to tell us about this because I flew one of those one time from College Station, Texas to Houston, which is only like a 45-minute flight.
Right.
I was ready to jump out because I thought for sure this was going to be the end. And I was like, you know what? I'd rather die by jumping out of the plane than crashing in this and having all my friends see that I was actually flying on that thing. Oh. And, but I couldn't imagine 18 hours. 45 minutes was enough.
Oh my gosh.
I'm never getting on. If I get a commercial airline ever again and I show up and it's got those, I'm just going to have to cancel.
Definitely not. And the cheapest flight is not necessarily the best flight. Because of course I was like traveling, you know, I was like, let's get the cheapest flight. And it's like, never again. After that, I went, I'm not going to do that again. Only well-known, reputed flights, and then I'll pay the extra to not have to go through that.
Isn't that the truth? And I always tell people, you know, the plane is going to get there safely. That's the ultimate goal of every single airline, every single pilot.
Yes.
But they have different ways of going about getting there safely, and each definition is a little different. So make sure you pick the one that suits your definition, where it's like, you know, I'm going to have a nice flight. We're going to land smoothly. Everybody's going to be good, because I say this with my roofing all the time. The cheapest option usually ends up costing you the most.
A lot more. Yeah.
I'm glad that you don't have a story like Becky where she was throwing up in her hands because 2 teenage boys were sitting beside her on a plane. That was another excerpt from our show the other day.
Oh, my goodness.
We've had some really good Aviation Week stories. It's been awesome.
Wow,
and you know what? You're not wrong about that, Ron. They take those things and they do like spin them a little bit. And then that's how they did the one that I flew. You had to literally like pull the propeller to start, which scares me now in hindsight. But I was too caught up in the moment to realize that. What happens if the hamsters, decide not to run anymore on my flight and I end up just...
Oh, my goodness.
Anyways,
oh, my goodness. Yeah.
That's the scariest flight ever. For 18 hours, yeah. You got
and
anything that I've ever done
for like more than half of it. Yeah, it was turbulence for more than half of it. It was terrifying. We were scared, like so scared. Like not just like, oh, it's a little turbulence. Like, oh my God. What's gonna happen?
Yeah. Good times. They always make for good stories later on.
Yeah. And then God, I have so many other stories from Thailand. It was incredible. But yeah, this is Aviation Week. One day I'll share some.
We're gonna do a Thailand week because
we? Okay,
yeah, we will for sure. Cool. We've already asked for Puke Week. Now we're gonna ask for Thailand Week. So we're gonna have all kinds of interesting subjects moving into the new year.
Awesome. Great. So now, things that make you go, is your next topic. I'm curious about that.
Yes, because check this out. This has nothing to do with aviation. It has to do with this guy right here on the screen. Okay. This gentleman right here, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this man or not, but I'll tell you a quick story about this guy.
Okay.
This dude on the screen, his name is Philip Rivers, and he's a football player, as you can see, but he's not just any football player. Luannah, this guy retired from football 5+ years ago. He is a father and grandfather. He's got 10 children. He's got a grandchild, and he was coaching high school football 2 weeks ago in Alabama. He retired from the NFL 5 years ago, had never, stopped working out. He's got the ultimate dad bod going on and all this stuff. And the craziest twist of events happens 2 weeks ago. The team that he used to play for, the Indianapolis Colts, their quarterback, which is what Philip Rivers is, got injured. And it's late in the season, and it's going to be very hard to find anybody that's like understanding the plays that they do. And to bring in somebody new like that at that level is going to be very complicated. So what did they do? They called our friend, Mr. Rivers, the grandfather, high school football coach.
Wow.
And the reason why they did, is twofold. Number one, the coach of the team here, who he is actually older than his head coach, used to be his coach when he played in San Diego years earlier. So they had a good relationship, a good friendship. They understood each other so much to the point that Philip Rivers, for his high school team that he's been coaching, he uses the exact same playbook that the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts uses for the NFL. So he literally knows the entire playbook. He understands the concepts. Now it's just simply a matter of, well, dude, you've been retired. You're 44. You have not been out here playing any kind of football. Let's sign this guy to a contract on Monday, and let's have him start an NFL football game this past Sunday. And this is exactly what happened.
Wow.
44-year-old Philip
Rivers that is
comes out of retirement. He was a high school football coach sitting on the couch eating potato chips the week earlier. Had never envisioned this happening. They call him up. He says, you know what? Yes. Cool. And the reason why he's doing it is because, number one, he said he wants all of his kids, which he's got a small village, but he also has, and it was against one of the best NFL highest level caliber defenses that you could ever get. And they didn't win, but they were winning with like less than a minute to go in the game. So it was almost the most insane victory that you could have never imagined. But he gets out there and he starts, moving around a little bit. And it's funny because, they say dad bod. This dude definitely is not in football playing shape. But I guess they say your mind and your arm, I guess, they stick around. And as long as you can understand what's going to happen and see that this guy's going to come at you and you can stay away, you can do it. He went out there. He had a pretty good game. He threw a touchdown and, the team was winning literally until the last minute against one of the best teams in the league in their home with their home crowd yelling and all that. And I thought, man, that's crazy. Like this guy is so likable that everybody just said, this is insane, but It's cool. I think everybody was
Totally cool.
watching the game saying, we're rooting for him. When he threw the touchdown on the screen, they showed his high school team that was all gathered together at a restaurant. They all started cheering, coach just threw a touchdown in the NFL.
Oh my
and
gosh.
He's going to come back again this week. And you can only imagine how painful that week was of going out and doing nothing and then playing at the highest level possible against guys that were not even born when you started playing. And he's going to go out and do it again this week. And I think it's cool to watch regardless of the wins or losses. But then there was another key aspect to this that came into play. And it really made me kind of wonder. And this is things that make you go, So Phillip Rivers, he was also, he's a nominee for the Hall of Fame this year. He'd been retired long enough that he got on the ballot for the Hall of Fame. And now that he went back and played, obviously that gets taken away. And now he has to retire and wait another 5 years.
Oh.
But he didn't care about that. He said, I don't know if I'm getting in there anyway, but this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I'm going to do it no matter what.
Wow.
And something else that I discovered with the NFL, the players for 5 years after they retire, they have complete health coverage for themselves and their families. Now, we're talking about a guy, Phillip Rivers, who made over $200 million in his career. Wow. He was an elite level Hall of Fame candidate. He was really good. Yeah. And he got to sign big deals, and he played in the NFL for well over a decade. But his health insurance was going to expire at the end of this year, which is what, a week and a half from now? So he literally got a call, and I don't know that this probably even came into his mind, but now that he's played a game, his family gets free health care for another 5 years before it terminates again. So with 10 kids and a grandkid, health care is not cheap. And I know he's got $200 million, but still, that's pretty smart, right?
Yeah.
I would think that would be the biggest win of the entire scenario. But it's been fun to watch, and I really like seeing these stories. I love underdogs. And even though this guy was an elite level, top tier guy, that was a long time ago. And then when you see someone come back later, it was like when Mike Tyson last year came back and got in a boxing match.
Yeah.
He didn't look like Mike Tyson, and he got beat up pretty good, and it was kind of phony looking. But the nostalgia, it draws you in. And having old man Rivers here go out there and do that, it was one of the coolest things. Then they show him on the sidelines, and he's mentoring all these kids that are just a couple years older than the high school kids that he's got now. So
wow.
What an awesome. I hope he wins this week because, the biggest fear obviously is when you're gone that long, you get hit and then you're hurt.
Yeah.
And everybody always faces that possibility, but it's like, that would really suck if you came back years after the fact and you got injured and the rest of your quality of life was bad because of it. But
yeah,
I don't feel like that's going to happen. I think nobody's going to go out there looking to injure this dude. I think all the guys that are playing there probably are like,
wow.
This is like playing against your dad. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Kind of righteous, right? Is a word people will use. That's awesome, right? Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful. Hey, don't worry, Ron. We're going to fill the time. We got this.
Oh, yeah.
So,
we got the time. Yeah.
That's Phillip Rivers. I think it's a cool thing. And we got Becky here. Good morning. We just told the story about Becky throwing up in her hands on an airplane a minute ago. Hope she didn't miss that. And I had Becky as our backup plan in case neither one of us knew how to do the space hey and me we stuff. I have a whole audio clip over here. I was going to hit it, and she was going to do our call outs for us today, but we pulled through like champions. So here we are.
Awesome. Oh, Ron's saying to play it anyway.
All right. Well, we literally just went over where you could find us, but I will play the Becky clip real quick here because I was not sure if either one of us would be able to fluidly do this. And please know, I cut this off of our show from the other day, so some of the commentary may not fit into today's program, but here we go. This is where you can find us.
You can also listen to us after the fact on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Red Circle, and tune in at RIBroadcasting. You won't see our faces, but that's okay on days like today. You will hear us. Exactly. You can follow us on all of our socials at MeWe, LinkedIn, TikTok, Space Hey, Blue Sky, Gab, Parler, and X, Twitter, Broadcasting RI or RI Broadcasting, and of course our Patreon at RI Broadcasting, where you can support the show, get yourself some swag. And we are on Facebook, going on daily morning show. You know, it's not RI Broadcasting, Broadcasting RI. It's your going on daily morning show because we got scrubbed a few months ago. So follow us there. And of course, we have a website now. So I can't help. Let's look at what that is. We have a website at RhodeIslandBroadcasting.net, where, of course, you can donate $10 million if you feel so inclined. And you can also vote for our Hall of Fame, which is different every month.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you don't know where to find us, you've been told twice today, and that's messed up. And that leads us in. Becky just gave us the perfect segue into our next segment. Go for it, my friend. What do we have next?
Yeah, well, turbulence doesn't just happen, 30,000 feet in the air. It happens inside of us sometimes, emotional turbulence. So I often use the metaphor of nosedives.
Yep.
Right? Where especially at this time of year, I thought this would be a good time because this is a nosedive season for many people, right? And it has been for me in the past as well. And so I just wanted to offer some thoughts and some support for that, because Christmas, although, on the surface it's all lights, it's the season of lights, but it's also the season of shadows. Right. And so when we only glorify and look at the light and we sort of put the shadows behind, what happens is those shadows actually get stronger. And I remember Christmases as a kid too. And God bless my mom, she's passed away. But oh my gosh, she was so afraid of anything going wrong that Christmas became very stressful.
Right.
And then she wouldn't understand, and then because of that stress, things would go wrong. Right.
Once you tell yourself it's going wrong, get ready, because you are
exactly right. And so from that angle, sometimes family gatherings, we go in with all kinds of different stories, especially once we're not kids anymore, right? We have emotional wounding, intentional, unintentional. We have confusions about, everything looks so fake. I mean, for me, I was always a rebel. I'm like, this is just so fake. I didn't like it, right? And like, let's be real. Let's be,
it's commercial for sure.
And just not only the commercial, but I love Christmas for the meaning behind it, the coming of the light. And, I relate to Christ, the Christ consciousness and energy. And so I understand, I love that now, and even then I understood it a bit. But the whole idea that Christmas has to be perfect, that everybody has to be perfect, everything has to be perfect. And that creates a lot of pressure too, right? And then it creates like we're not quite able to breathe and just naturally be who we are, or to meet the challenges with grace versus with, no, this can't happen.
Right.
I've been there. Which is what happens in a lot of families. And it happened with mine, with my mom, right? And then there's grieving, for me, I lost my sister and my mother in a period of 3 years, just 3 years ago. And I just had my birthday. So for me too, there's navigation. I didn't have them calling me for my birthday. I won't have them calling me for Christmas, or I won't call them, right? And even though we had challenging dynamics, but still that's gone. And so there's a lot of people that are grieving, lost loved ones, family members, even lost relationships, right? So sometimes Christmas, even though it's supposed to be the time of gathering and family, it can be the loneliest season for a lot of people. Right? So a lot of grief and loss can come up. Financial pressures can come up. You want to buy gifts for people, but oh my God, I'm looking at my account balance and
right.
How am I going to do that? Get through the most expensive season really of the year, right?
Yeah, it is tough. It is tough.
Right. And then there's, comparison. Well, they look so happy. Why am I not happy? Depression, if we have anxiety. So there's all kinds of these, I call them shadow emotions, because where there's light, there's shadow. So we have the light nature of who we are and our personality and our, the essence of us. But then we have these unresolved shadows of pain and confusion. And our world does not give us tools to navigate that. We're just, told, put it under the rug, suck it up, just keep moving. Don't be complicated, don't start something, right? And things like that. And so all of these things, they kind of suffocate our capacity to actually have joy in this season of joy and light. And so what activates our triggers are the stories that we have, right? And so we'll meet a family member, and then all of a sudden, we got the reel going on, right? There's this reel of all these, past tensions or disagreements or whatever, or the reels of our losses. And then these stories, if we don't know how to interrupt them, we start believing every thought we have. And then we start spiraling into that pit of despair, of which I know very well. I've been there. I even decorated it. I knew it so well. I spent lots of time there.
I wondered who did the decorating. It looked nice. Trust me. I spent some time there. Yeah. Looks good. Nice job.
Oh, thank you. Right. So, and not to say that, here I am, I have my lightness and my joy, but I have been there, and my joy has actually deepened because I've been there. And so that's one of the things to understand too, that pain is actually a portal and a pathway to deepen our own connection to self and life and each other. But when we haven't been given the tools to understand that, then we just think pain is horrible. We want to avoid it at every cost. We want to avoid conflict at every cost, but meanwhile, these are the main catalysts that actually, create the depth that give life meaning and make us appreciate what we have, because life is temporary, right? But when we have these emotions, we think they're permanent in those moments. And so one of the key things is to remember, this is not permanent. There is no emotion that's permanent unless I make it permanent. So even biologically, a fact is that a natural emotion, the lifespan is only 95 seconds.
That's it. And then we prolong that life for as long as we choose to. And that's the unfortunate reality. We choose to do that. And, people hold on to a lot of trauma, a lot of things from the past until their very end of their life. And, I think you and I just discovered something very super in common that we have is I went through the same thing 3 years ago with my own parents, both of them.
Right.
And my mom was especially hard for me because I was taking care of her until the very end. And at the end, it was like, and my mom was always that person who was always concerned. Everything's got to be perfect. Oh my God. And I made a commitment that it was maybe the last time I had a coherent conversation with my mother, which is really kind of sad to talk about. But the last time that she and I had a conversation where we understood each other and we knew who we were and we made sense to each other, that's what I made the promise was, I am done with that crap. I ain't gonna let that go anymore. And for the last 3.5 years of my life, it's been almost like a massive weight was taken off the shoulders. Right. And I feel like, now it's weird because I look around and it's like I used to get really mad at things that were so trivial. Something didn't go right on a roofing project, or, one of my guys needs me to go bring him something, or, why didn't you know, or why didn't you do this, or why is it wrong? And I was on the path of just like, I'm going to stroke out and you're going to find me laying in someone's
reaction. Yeah.
And I'm going to be mad. And then I just one day said, you know what? I don't think that this is worth all that. And it's been an amazing transformation for me to where I don't get frustrated that much anymore. Traffic's still something I needed to do a little bit of work on, but I understand, like you said, life is short. And when you start to see people that have been there the entire time, people that brought you into the world are no longer here, it really hits you different. And I think that second phase of your life, when you start to understand how much, this really is and how precious it is and how fleeting, that you really do start to appreciate it more. And I've had a lot of people on my own podcast that we talk about these things, depression and how do you overcome these things? And what are some of the things that can help and trigger things along the way? But holidays are the number one thing that trigger people with depression. And Christmas is the number one season for suicide as well. So I think it's very important that we check on people. I've got several really great friends that check in on me because, I don't do a lot on holidays now myself because what? Or, I'm going to go travel to visit nobody. There's nobody there. So I think it's great when you've got people in your life that can do that. And that was an amazing topic. And I know that you and I never met until like 2 seconds before we started, but that's a real connection right there for me. And I really appreciate that, because I've lived it myself, and I know people that still currently do. And
and it's the hardest thing to get out of. I had my periods with depression too. I actually, when I was 16, I wanted to check out of the world already, right? And so my life has been riddled with experiences that kept triggering me into that depression and despair. But there was always a part of me, like the light. This is the season of light, right? And we all have a light in us, and there's a light of life. And whether we use the word God or spirit or, creation, or that light is, whether I exist to define it or not, there is that spark of life and goodness in every single being and everything in creation. And for some reason, I always knew it. And that was my lifeline, my whole life, through all the different things that I went through, that kept bringing me back into that pit of despair that I spent so much time in. I decorated, right? Again, repeating that, right? So that light. And so this is the season of light. And so this is what life has taught me, is that when we get tripped up into these feelings and emotions of depression and despair, it's not about trying to escape or get rid of them. It's more about going in to meet ourselves and to meet the pain with the light.
Embrace it. Absolutely. It's there.
And to understand that this is an essential ingredient of being human. Contrast and duality is an essential ingredient, the friction to create, to learn, to evolve. And when we look through history, the things that our ancestors went through, oh my gosh, they were like made of steel. And a part of it was too that they pushed things aside to keep moving forward. And that's what got us here. But now we're in an era where there's actually space to reflect. There's actually information out there, like so much of it that wasn't there when I was 18 and 19. I was just scrambling to find my way in life. So spirituality was my go-to. But it wasn't until later in my 30s, actually, that I started discovering the trauma biology, studying neuroscience, studying trauma healing, and understanding that when we have a map to know what it's happening in our biology, it actually helps us get out of those states faster. Because when we're just in the feeling and the abstract of it, it feels so big. It feels like the biggest boogeyman in the world. It feels like it's never going to go away. It feels like we have no power. But what I want to share here is we have power. We have the power of discernment, to pause, to breathe. So I'm going to share my 3-step system that has developed over my lifetime that I share with my clients in a moment. But to understand that our biology, we have power over that. Every thought that I have instantly activates chemistry in my body, right? And we can all relate to that. You think of your puppy, or you think of a moment of joy, all of a sudden you've got all these endorphins and oxytocin and all these good hormones that you feel connected to life. The heart opens. But the moment we start having the narrowing thoughts of fear, anxiety, depression, loneliness, grief, sadness, we narrow, which means we stop breathing. And when we stop breathing, we're really stopping living, because breath is life. And so the power we have is to just know that, okay, this is the mechanism. Is my body contracting? Am I breathing? And if I notice I'm not breathing, which I will not be if I'm caught in a fear, if I'm caught in a story, to remind ourselves to breathe. So I'm trained in the heart math method and traditional Hawaiian healing, and in both those, and also psychotherapeutic bodywork for releasing trauma. And in all 3 of these modalities, breath is the key.
That's very crucial.
Breath is how we come back into our frontal cortex, which is where we can see the bigger picture, we can connect the dots, where we can find solutions for our problems, where we can guide ourselves through those moments with the knowledge and awareness that we have. But when we stop breathing, our limbic brain gets overactivated and it shuts down the frontal cortex. That's why we feel lost. Literally, the frontal cortex stops firing. And so we need to have a way to reactivate so our frontal cortex can come back on, and we can start meeting the situation with presence. And that's the first step of my system. Coming into the present moment. Because when I am in any of those states, I'm either regretting and lamenting the past, or I'm having fear over the future.
Yep.
And what that means is I'm not here. I'm not present to really meet the moment with clarity, with discernment, right? So the breath brings me into this present moment so that I can come back into my body. Because when we're triggered, it feels like we're like flying high, like we're like static energy up here, right? And it feels uncontrollable, and we're in the turbulence of those winds. The breath can help us land, literally and metaphorically, back into the moment. And then once we land in the moment is the second step. It's awareness. I can only have awareness once I'm present. And what is awareness? It's when I can take some moments to observe, to look at my situation from an astronaut's view. This is what one of my mentors, he was a First Nations teacher that I spent many years learning with. He called it the astronaut's view. And when I can be present, then I have the chance to have that astronaut's view, and I can see that all of this is temporary. This too shall pass. And what this moment, I can ask myself, what is this moment inviting me to encounter in myself? What pain am I holding that this moment is activating for me to finally unwind and release, versus keep winding up and hardwiring myself in it more deeply? Because that's what we do when we don't have the tools. We just keep hardwiring ourselves in our story, confirmation bias. It gives us all the reasons why, yeah, I'm right, this is true. And so we have to know that this is a reality for our mind and our biology. It's not just emotions. And when we know that, we can actually take constructive action to bring in love. And that's the third part. Love to the moment. Love to that past child self, perhaps. Love to the part of us that's grieving. Instead of judging it and condemning it and saying, hey, how can I hold space for you now, for that inner part of us? Because that's all we're needing. Right? And our unconscious mind is our child self. All of our unconscious beliefs, they were born in us.
Absolutely.
When we had no other reference points to understand, so we made conclusions and stories, right? And then later on, those conclusions and stories got validated by more experiences that validated why we felt what we felt. So to break that loop, the breath, and I tell my clients, it's the best medicine, and it's free, and you have it 24/7 to come home and land in yourself. And when we can rinse, wash, and repeat, presence, okay, broader view, awareness. Once my frontal cortex is activated through breathing, because breathing signals to my nervous system I'm safe. And once I feel safe, then I can take observation. And the only way I can meet the shadows in the dark is if there's the light of love. Through understanding, through knowledge, and through compassion, realizing, we're all broken. We all have wounds. There's no human being that doesn't. Even those that think they don't. One day, the day will come, because we all do, unless we've already evolved through, unless we've met our shadow selves. We have it. Some of us hide it better than others, right? And we do that because we survive. So there's no judgment in this. This is always, we're all doing the best we can to survive.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, we develop a lot of distorted coping mechanisms to do that. And that's where conflict and harm come in, towards ourselves and towards others. It's actually also the root of narcissism, extreme trauma, right? And so that can be another topic. But understanding that when we can see there is a bigger view, I'm not alone in this. We're all students of life. I don't have to be perfect. I just need to be present. I need to learn to be present. Then it becomes possible that I can actually meet these harder moments, and they can shape me. Like one of my favorite Sufi poems, I'll paraphrase as best I can, from Hafiz. He says, "Do not surrender your loneliness so quickly. Let it season you as very few divine or human ingredients can." That is deep wisdom. And when I can understand that my pain isn't there to crush me, but it is a ripple effect of also centuries of humanity living disconnected from the heart and soul, not having the information needed to navigate the complexity of being a human being with a nervous system, right, that feels and reacts out of hypervigilance and past trauma. And if we don't know that, we just think, oh, that's just me. But it's not. None of us started out with that. So when we can embrace the paradox and say, okay, life is struggle, it's hard, but also that struggle bears fruit when we engage it and encounter it with awareness, with presence, awareness, and love. Then it becomes doable. And it's not a silver bullet, but then we can breathe and we can progress forward step by step, little by little. And so I wanted to share that today because, yeah, it's just a week away from Christmas. And I remember my body was already like activated in the past, of nervous, of anticipating, of having my arguments in my head already, for I know what's going to come up. I know the comments are going to have, right? So,
Right.
So the story. So my invitation is to, whenever the stories start playing their reels in the background of your mind or in the forefront, take some breaths and realize there's always more to the story, because as long as we're reacting, it's actually a sign we don't have all the information. And it's
I'll
just,
tell you what, that right there, you have absolutely made my day.
oh,
And after we're done, I'm going to ask you if you'll come be a guest on my podcast, because I need like another hour or two to talk to you about some of the stuff that you've just touched on.
I'd love that.
Well, what an amazing perspective. And I think that that's something that a lot of people just kind of compartmentalize, especially now, like you said, trying to just get through this, trying to do your deal. And everybody's like, you know, Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday. And you just kind of play along with it because you feel out of place otherwise. But when you realize you're not out of place, I think there are probably equal number or maybe even more people that go through this on a regular, you know, every single year they have to think about these things. And it's like, man, and just taking a second and just realizing everything's going to be all right. Yeah. You know, that's not the scenario any longer. That's in the past. We're not going to have to rehash that. We're not going to have to live it anymore. Let it go. And I think once you understand how to let things go, and you can literally in your mind just say, I don't want that anymore because it's not good for me, and realize that looking out for yourself isn't selfish. I think that a lot of people feel that way, you know, like you almost feel like you're a narcissist if you stand up for yourself or if you want what's good for yourself. But I think once you get to a certain point in life and experience certain things, you're like, I really don't care if you guys like me. I'm just here and I'm having fun. And anybody that wants to be my buddy, we're cool. And if you don't, hey, best of luck to you. We're all going to be gone 100 years from now. So I wish everybody the best. I hope we see something earth-shattering and life-changing every single day that we're here. And I hope we get to meet people along the way that change our lives and give us different perspectives. And I'm thankful for this morning because I just got that from you. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just like to just add there, like the letting go. It's like, well, you know, how? And the way I've learned is it's just being present and honest with the moments.
Honesty. That's really the most important aspect of it.
And honest with myself.
Tell yourself the truth, even if it's not what you want to hear.
And the moment I do that, and I do it with my breath, it's like the knots that are inside, they just naturally, organically start to disentangle, because what we're all needing is we're needing to be seen. But the person we're needing to be seen by is ourself first. And that's why it doesn't matter how many, you know, people can say we're amazing or they love us or whatever. If we don't have that inside, it's never going to land. It's like going into an empty well. So we have to fill our well. We have to meet with presence and honesty and own our shadows and our light and learn from them, right? And the narcissism is a spectrum. There's positive elements to narcissism. You know, it's a spectrum. We all have narcissism, and it is a part of our protection defense mechanism, right?
Absolutely.
So we can go and have a conversation about that. There's a lot to go into there, which then broadens the understanding so that we can also soften these absolute black and white statements about narcissists, because, hey, we all got it. And the thing is to learn and realize we all got it. And where does it show up for me? And then when it shows up, how can I navigate that? Because when it's showing up, it's actually showing me where I have pain. It's actually showing me where there's something that's needing resolution in me. So how do I bring that into my present moment with the awareness and observation of love so that I can evolve that? And, you know, and also embrace the, you know, if we didn't have, you and I, if we didn't have a little bit of, you know, ego in us, we wouldn't show up on the show.
That's true. All my roofing buddies tell me the same thing.
You know, an ego is actually, for me, a force of good when it's informed rightly. But most egos are wounded egos instead of healthy egos. And that's another topic, right? So to understand ego isn't all bad when it's in balance. Because without ego, I wouldn't get up and go out my door even.
You'd be afraid of everything in the world. Absolutely.
So breathe it in, let it all be what it is. And then let's just find out how to work it better. How to have these elements of us that are shadow and light. How can we use them in a synergy and an alchemy that progresses us forward and enlivens and enlightens us to live a better life and to love each other more through learning to love ourselves. Yeah.
There you go. That is a amazing topic right there. And this segment was awesome. I'm glad that we went through the other ones a little bit quick because I felt like at the end of the show, we were going to be able to just kind of tie everything together and have a real good conversation. Real quick, we definitely want to say thank you to everybody that's watching today. We got Jake. Jake just subbed to my podcast, Keeping It Real. So I appreciate that sincerely. Awesome. And thank you, Luannah, for bringing that to the discussion today, because what a great topic that I think a lot of people try to avoid and ignore. Yeah. And I have so many people on my podcast. We talk about mental health and we talk about going through these different cycles in life. And like today was meant to be. So that's awesome. You and I are both airline pilots. We both had horrible flight experiences. And one other thing that we have in common, I believe that what you're sitting in right now is not a virtual background.
No,
you're sitting outdoors.
I am
nice and warm with all the nice, beautiful trees in the back. I got a blizzard going on back here just because our friends over in Canada, you know, I want them to feel like we're also a part of the family. I'm here in San Antonio. I literally kicked the air conditioner down before we started. I'm wearing shorts right now and I'm sweating, but we definitely want to give a shout out to all of our Canadian friends and anybody that's dealing with this kind of nastiness right now.
I saw
but
Becky
we do not understand what you're dealing with. So we like it that way.
Yeah, I'm in LA for one more day. I go back tomorrow. So it's been a beautiful time here. And look at this. It's just been incredible.
It's amazing, right? It's like, there you go. It's a week from Christmas.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for watching. And this was an awesome show. And just remember, you know, it's a beautiful thing to be human. It's a beautiful thing to have all the different contrasts that we have and just learn to embrace and understand them. And then life really does get more golden and we can travel and navigate the challenges with a lot greater grace and ease. Challenges will never go away. Triggers will never go away. But when we learn to navigate them, that's the superpower that we have, and we can do that. And so wishing you love, wishing you blessings for this season. Anybody who's struggling, you're not alone, you know, and there are resources for supporting you. And one of the biggest resources is your own self and your own soul. So I wish you connection there and lots of love.
There you go, folks. Thanks for watching today. This has been an awesome episode. I'm thankful that I had nothing going on a Thursday morning and I was able to volunteer to kind of fill in.
Yeah.
Don't forget to check us out on Mondays, though. I am kind of partial to the Monday show. Yeah. I think it's my favorite, obviously. But Becky and I will be back on Monday. Who knows what nonsense we're going to get into, but we usually come up with some pretty crazy stuff. And like I said, it's a lot of fun doing this show. I appreciate it. And
me too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Happy holidays. We will see y'all next week.
Yeah. Blessings. Bye.